Hi, welcome back to Happy Hour here on the Craft Beer Runner. Today I have a new friend of mine. Her name is Sabrina. She has a YouTube channel called Sabby Sabs, where she does lifestyle vlogs, dabbles in politics, as well as product reviews. So, welcome, Sabrina, to the Craft Beer Runner.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. What are you drinking today?
Hmm. So I have Maine Beer Company, and the name of this beer is called Lunch, and it's an IPA. This is actually one of my favorite IPAs that they make. They also have another one that goes with this called Dinner. And they actually just recently started distributing here in Massachusetts, so I don't have to go up to Maine to get this anymore. But they used to do like beer releases for lunch and for dinner. And my husband's actually gone up there before and like waited in line early in the morning to get it because it would go like really fast. So I'm glad that we have it here in Massachusetts now.
That's great. Yeah, and then I'm drinking from Russian River. Playing for president, my friend Brian uh, happened to put this in a box and it happened to be on my front doorstep. Not saying it went through the mail or anything, but I'm looking forward to drinking this one as election season is finally slowly coming to a close. So we pour this out real quick. All right. Cheers, Serena.
Cheers. I'm actually drinking out of my Vermont Brewers Festival glass here. It's an awesome beer festival to go to if you
So you
guys have
have all
ever.
of New England. You have the main beer in a Vermont glass while drinking in Massachusetts.
Yep.
Great. uh, so yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Sabrina actually it was one of the first people to reach out to me when I first started my channel, and I quickly checked out her channel and lots of great content on there. Um, and one of her first videos I saw on her channel, I think it's actually pinned, is a video you did about gentrification of Boston. You want to talk a little bit about that video?
Sure. So actually, like when I first moved to Boston, one of the things that stood out to me, so that was 9 years ago, is people would tell me which neighborhoods to avoid. So that was very interesting to me. Don't go to these neighborhoods because they're not safe. And over the last, couple years living here, those neighborhoods have actually been gentrified now. And it's just interesting that now that, companies have come in and they've built condos and they've, I guess, fixed up the neighborhood, the rents have increased dramatically, like in those areas where people told me it wasn't safe, like just a couple years ago. And so what happens is like families that grew up in those neighborhoods, because the rent has increased, they can't afford to live there anymore. So they've actually moved further out to like the North Shore, South Shore, or Metro West area in Massachusetts. And it really had me thinking like, there I was, like living in these same neighborhoods that people who grew up in couldn't afford to live in anymore. And it just really made me think like, before I did that video, I asked my husband, I was like, are we a part of the problem? Because I mean, we we kind of moved in to their neighborhoods and we're paying this the rent that the landlords are setting. And so looking back on it, I started to wonder like, was that a good decision to make? And for me, like I'm not against you know, fixing neighborhoods. I'm not against that. But there comes a point when it's going to cause like people to have to move further out, which means they'll now have a longer commute coming into the city. That's a big problem here, right? So it you have to ask yourself like, what are we doing here, right? So like, are we really, we're fixing the neighborhood, but the people who are the neighborhood are now pushed out. So what's the neighborhood now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it leads to other issues too. So someone is pushed further out, they're now maybe they didn't need a car before if they were living in the city, they could get around via bike or train or
Mhm.
bus. Now they need a car, adds to congestion, adds to emissions. So there's a lot of other implications of moving people out of the city. It decreases lifestyle, quality of lifestyle, I should say, quality of life. People that commute longer are not happier in general. So yeah, there's a lot of negative implications to it. Besides also the loss of character to neighborhoods. When I moved up here to Seattle 4 years ago, yeah, it was really starting to come on a lot of neighborhoods that in the past were the red line neighborhoods. People were forced to live because they couldn't, they weren't legally allowed to buy elsewhere, are now being forced out of those areas because raising um, sale property tax out here because the property tax is not fixed. Um, so when neighborhood prices go up, that raises the property tax, and you have someone that you can't afford the neighborhood anymore. I know you mentioned that you're not against like progress and against you know working to improve neighborhoods. Like, what kind of ideas do you think people should consider in working towards like a urban redevelopment?
Yeah, so looking at Boston alone, public transportation is a big one. It's true, like the further you go into the, I guess what people call the not safe neighborhoods, they have limited access to public transportation. So there, I met, kids who are having to take 3 buses in Dorchester just to get to school Monday through Friday, which is crazy, right? But if you go into the neighborhoods in Boston, Cambridge, Somerville area where there are a lot of professionals like live in those areas, they have T access readily and available. So that's one of the biggest problems is public transportation, especially if you don't have a car.
Yeah, and you're more likely not have a car if you can't if you're living on lower income. Like it's an expense that you know that unless you need it, it's not top priority. Because I've thought about these issues for years. I used to like want to get into like I used to be in real estate a long time ago, and one area I wanted to focus on was urban redevelopment, but not in a gentrified way, like doing it in the right way. And like so like I've thought about like ideas on how to increase the density of a neighborhood, but not decrease the character of a neighborhood type thing.
Mhm.
So like one thing I thought about was having developers team up with the existing homeowners if they're going to take a single family house and upzone it to like townhouses or condos because honestly we need more density in urban cores. Have the developer team up with the homeowner, have some type of partnership there where the homeowner basically allows the developer to take their land, create a better property, but have some type of like profit share back or have the existing homeowner get guaranteed a space in the new building at a affordable cost or something like that, where you're not people aren't being pushed out of the area, but you are still being able to increase the density and change the and modernize the area.
Right. And it's really interesting too, because a couple years ago, they said that they were going to build housing, more low income housing and more housing for middle class people. I haven't seen that. I don't know what's holding that up, but I have continuously seen them build more and more like luxury apartments and condos. I'm talking like $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month, which nobody I feel should have to pay that for rent. But people are paying it, and that's the thing. Like as long as landlords know that there's somebody out there that is going to pay that amount of money, they don't feel the pressure to come down on the rent. But it's interesting because now we're having a different problem because of COVID. So there's a great amount of people who are moving out of the city because they don't want to be near people because
Right.
of COVID. So they want that space and they want that freedom. Like today, one of the first days where I've been able to walk outside without a mask on, just in my yard. Whereas before, living in an apartment, I always had to, put it on
Yeah.
every time I left. And it's just crazy because like now, like, we lived in the city because we wanted to be closer to work and to do a lot of things in the city, like the concerts, games, sports games, and all that stuff. And like, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Boston, for the most part, is still kind of shut down. Like, not the way it was under quarantine, but there's no game. We can't go to games at Fenway. There's no concerts. There's bars are still on hold. And Governor Baker said that he's not going to reopen bars until there's a vaccine. So I'm seeing like videos of people in places like Florida where they're still going like nothing happened. Like it's like they're still going out to bars and they're still having fun and everything. And here it's just not like that.
Yeah, I mean, up until recently in the state of Washington, I think most people, I wouldn't say all, but most people have been very respectful of, why we are locked down. And, we do have limited capacity dining inside. You know, up until recently, it was 5 people, same household, and at 25% capacity for the indoor. We have outdoor dining, even though it's Seattle and it's getting into rainy season, but we have tents. Um, but yeah, but I think as a whole, Washington up until recently was doing a good job of being respectful of these, but now we've also had a spike. We
Mhm.
went from 500-600 cases a day to we're in the 2000s now, the past couple of days, and it's I think a lot of it also is like when that announcement from Pfizer came out about the vaccine saying we're almost there. I think a lot of people like took that a little too literally what
Mhm.
that meant and like started getting really loose. And also it is going into winter season. People, you know, it's dark, it's cold, you get lonely being by
Mhm.
yourself. So you do want to see your friends. Going to Thanksgiving and Christmas, you do want to see your family, and we just all have to accept it's going to be a tough year. It's going to be tough. We need to talk about how tough it is for our own mental health. But it's going to be tough. We all need to hunker down. We're in this together, and there is optimistically a late spring, early summer horizon. And if we can do this as a community, prove like how good of a community we are as Americans, like we can get through this. But
Yeah.
it's getting a little frustrating right now with the spikes, and like, especially for someone like myself that's done, I wouldn't say 100% everything right, but I've done most of all what I could do to not to limit the spread, I, and it still spikes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. I work with college students, and it's really hard time for them. I mean, they're young, and I remember being an undergrad, and like they want to be able to go out and hang out with their friends and do the things they normally were doing. But the reality is, it's limited now. Like people have to wear masks all the time, they have to socially distance, so they're not getting the full college experience that they were used to getting. So it's just a tough time all around, I think.
Right. Going back to gentrification, like one thing I've actually I didn't really know too much about, and I started here on podcasts talking about this. I think it was actually Adam Conover's podcast. He was talking to someone that with a community land trust. It's a nonprofit. They're all over the world, but it actually started here, I think, in the U.S. They're nonprofits that own the land of a certain area in a trust, and the people that includes, and so they control the development, they control the housing prices. That there could be, it helps with affordability, making sure that areas don't get too outpriced. I believe in Tacoma, Washington, which is about an hour from here in Seattle. There's a community that actually has a community land trust that they're working with to ensure housing stays affordable, given that that area is about been busting at the seams in terms of pricing and outpricing people. So I would love to do more research into community land trusts
Mhm.
because I think that also might be a solution for keeping certain areas affordable to make sure that you don't lose the soul of those areas. Going back to your video, I know one thing, the joke about most gentrification is, your area is being gentrified when there's 3 Starbucks on one block. But on your video, it was there's a brand new brewery here, which, and I love breweries, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I kind of want to transition to the Massachusetts beer scene, since you were living in
Mhm.
Boston and you said in your new neighborhood you have 3 breweries. You want to talk a little bit about the craft beer scene, either in your new neighborhood or in Boston in general?
Yeah, so when I first came to Massachusetts, I think at that time the craft brewery I knew of was Sam Adams, which is really funny now because my husband and other people who are really like big craft beer enthusiasts, they will tell you that Sam Adams is not really craft beer. So I knew of that one, and that was a popular place for people to go to. But over the years, more and more have started here in Massachusetts. And unfortunately, some of them have not survived, like because the competition is so tough. Like you really have to have really good beer here if you want to make it, right? But there's so many breweries here. I haven't been to half of them because every year I hear of a new one that's out there. I would say the big ones right now is one called Treehouse, which I have a vlog where my husband and I went there, and they have a huge tap room. They are out in Charlton, Massachusetts, and they that's their second location. They originally started as just a pickup place. So we would go out to their first location, stand in line for like however many hours, and then you would get like a case of Treehouse and you would take it home. And like that was like a thing. And then they opened that new facility, and now it's a tap room. So a lot of people come out there, and with COVID, they let you do the beer pickup. So we'll go pick up like a case of beer. But Treehouse is probably one of the top ones in the world, actually. And they're highly ranked on Beer Advocate. They're known for their IPAs, but they also have stouts as well, and more like the fruity, like sour beers as well. After them, Trillium Brewery is actually pretty big. They have a couple different locations here in the Boston area. They have the juicy IPAs, which I really love those because it doesn't taste bitter at all. They have one beer, it has the Galaxy hops, and that one just tastes like you're drinking straight up juice. Like so
Yeah.
they're really big.
I was just
Um,
drinking a from up here in Washington. I had a all Galaxy IPA. I think last week or 2 weeks ago. It was just yeah, it was so juicy.
mhm. Now the only thing about those two is that they don't really distribute. So if you want to get their beer, you have to go to their brewery to get it. And then the third one I would say is Night Shift, which I have one right here from them. And this is the one with the owl. And this one's called Work Zone, and it's a New England double IPA with tangerine peel. Night Shift comes out with a different beer almost every week. I kid you not. Definitely follow them on Instagram. They're very popular now. I remember when they used to share a space with Idle Hands, and now like they're everywhere. They were before COVID started. They were going to open a brewery in Philly, and then COVID happened. So I'm not sure if that's gonna, continue or not. But they're very much very lively on social media. So that's how a lot of people know about them. And they have all different types of beers. I think my favorite by them is they have one called Phone Home, and it has ET from ET movie, and it tastes like Reese's Pieces. It's really good. So they've really taken off, and they also have a newer location at the near the Lovejoy Wharf, the Seaport area, where they do some experimental beers. So those are the ones that are really like big here. And then you still have like your Wachusett Brewery, which has been around for a long time. One of the guys that started Wachusett actually went to my husband's college, WPI. So you have those here in Beverly. You have Channel Marker, Gentil Brewing, Old Planters Brewing. Those are smaller breweries. And one of my favorites, which closed this year, was Slum Brew, and it was in Somerville. They had two locations, and then we got the notification on Facebook that not too long after COVID that they were gonna have to close, which is unfortunate. They had a thank you Obama beer, and it was so good. Like it was a stout, and I was like, oh no, there goes the thank you Obama. But yeah, it's really competitive.
It wasn't the sarcastic thanks Obama, right?
I know. It was Yeah, they were really good. They used to do New Year's Eve like parties there, and we knew the owner. They were very friendly people, and then they had to close. So
Too
competition's
bad.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, as you said, Massachusetts is definitely a lot stricter than other areas in terms of current regulations. Like, we've been lucky to be able to keep our beer scene going even through the pandemic here in Seattle and the state of Washington. But yeah, and it's got to be really tough for people trying to keep their business open when the most you can do is take out. And there was also that aluminum can shortage this year. So if you're doing takeout and you can't, the price of cans is so high because you can't get cans. It's a tough time.
Mhm.
Yeah, let me transition from that to the 4 pack of questions to end things out. So get to know you a little bit better, at least your love of beer. um, do you remember your first experience with good beer or craft beer?
Oh yeah. And this is still one of my go-tos. It was Wachusett Brewing Blueberry. And if you would get it at a bar here, they actually put real blueberries in it. And so that was when like I really was like, okay, I'm gonna drink craft beer. It's just gonna be a fruity, kind of beer. Like I had to ease myself into it. So that was actually one of my favorites, and that's still a staple of mine.
And then what are your favorite styles of beer?
Oh boy. I know I've mentioned all these IPAs, but my favorite styles are I like the darker beers, the porter, stouts, especially this time of year. I like that roasty kind of taste. And then after that, I would go for the sours.
Right, and then I know you've rattled off a great number of breweries locally to you. Do you have one or two favorites in the state of Massachusetts that are your go-to brewery?
Oh man. I think it would, okay, I would say night shift because of the beer and because of the atmosphere. It's
Is
such a
that was that your friends?
no, that's this one. This
Okay,
is my shift, but my friends they don't actually have a tap room yet. Um but I would have said Treehouse, but honestly, because Treehouse for me, it's an hour drive to get out there. So that's part of it. And then you have to drive back, and they also have a limit. You can only get like two. It's kind of weird, but you can only get like two beers or something like that. And then but at night shift they have everything. They have like music, food trucks, they have cornhole, like they really make it lively.
right. And the last one is outside of Massachusetts. Do you have a favorite brewery or two?
Yes, is actually the one that you mentioned, the Russian River. So we actually had someone sent us Russian River, and I think we sent them Trillium. And I tried
Fair
that and I
trade.
said, yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably the best, one of the best of the best
What did they
out there.
send you from Russian River?
The Pliny the Elder.
Okay, in the bottle, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
they don't typically can stuff. So yeah, this was a one time thing, the canning of this one. But yeah, they're normally in the bottle, the Pliny the Elder. Yeah, and then they do a one time a year release. Not up here, but in Southern California and Northern California, they do the Pliny the Younger. Um, and they go to different bars and release that. But yeah, that's almost impossible to get.
Hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on the Craft Beer Runner. Hope you all enjoyed Sabrina. Go check out her channel, Sabby Sabs. I'll have a link for that. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Also, please check out her channel and subscribe to her channel as well. Have a great day, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.